While all points pay the same over 7 races, some will mean just that little bit more to the drivers. Indianapolis is no doubt one of those. With the prospect of a win at the Brickyard looming, will there be more risk taken by drivers to be able to kiss the bricks? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch the PCA Sim Racing Series 9 Club Class live here on Podium Esports. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth tonight is DJ Clark. Cameron Aubernon is on social media, and Ryan Bauer is producing while using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. After 3 tough tracks to open Series 9, we moved to more open circuits for the last 4 events. But tonight, we're at the hump and mark halfway in the championship. Welcome to Indy. We're proud to announce that Pirelli is back as the PCA Sim Racing title sponsor for Series 9. Pirelli was founded in Milan in 1872 and today stands as a global brand known for its cutting-edge technology, high-end production, excellence, and passion for innovation that draws heavily on its Italian roots. Pirelli is among the world's major producers of tires and is an OEM supplier to Porsche. Find more about Pirelli at Pirelli.com. Also, Six Sigma Racing was founded in 2021 by automotive engineers as a new sim racing equipment provider. After 1 year, Six Sigma now has divisions in the USA, Japan, Australia, and Europe, providing the best valued sim racing cockpits and peripherals. Six Sigma offers 10% off to any PCA member from the website, and the coupon code is PCA Sim. For more information about Six Sigma Sim Racing, please visit their website, sixsigmasimracing.com. That's the number 6, sigmasimracing.com. And it's an honor to get to hand over to you, DJ, to talk about Indy's road course today and what the drivers are up against.
Well, Joe, this is the newly reprofiled road course here that iRacing added into the simulation not too terribly long ago. It takes out a lot of the Mickey Mouse sections that we were used to, but still presents some pretty fantastic overtaking opportunities, particularly here as we ride on board with Enrique Gregorato going down into turn 7 right there. That's going to be a prime one, as well as going down into turn 1. That is going to be a very, very draft-dependent part of the track. Now, this part, though, 8, 9, and 10, very, very tricky to get right. You've got to try to maximize as much speed as possible through there to really carry down and maybe even present yourself another overtaking opportunity here down into turn 12. But altogether, this Indy road course is an absolute gem of a circuit, and these Porsches are going to have a great time here today.
I think we should see some good racing out there. There's definitely going to be some challenges, but the drivers, I think, are up for it. And, well, they've been competing for 3 races now, so the championship is, of course, starting to shape up now that we're going to hit that halfway mark. So we've got 2 races counted and 1 dropped for our drivers. And up at the top of that, currently, Logan Grotto is your leader. Thomas Briggs behind him by just a few points. Not that many considering how many you get for a win. It's 350 plus for wins and good finishes up here. So that could easily switch around. And then look at that close fight between Terrence Tong and Chad Dick. They're tied on points currently down there in 7th and 8th with Matt Dialosa also very, very close behind. So things could all switch around before you know it out here as we've been watching Gregorato take his way around the track in this final minute of qualifying. Not sure how important the qualifying is going to be, but we have a lot of drivers out there today with nearly 40 on the track, DJ. So it's going to be a busy little circuit.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very busy, and I think drivers are going to be incredibly thankful here today to have the wide running at Indianapolis, particularly coming down on the main straightaway, on the back straight, and through this little flick down through 12, 13, and 14. It's a very, very wide track, but there's really only one optimal line through the majority of these corners, so watch for a lot of drivers trying to fight for that best line.
No doubt. Now, if you've been watching here with the PCA and you want more, well, a reminder that PCA Sim Racing social media offers in-race reports, breaking news, and announcements through Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. To subscribe, key in the platform name and add /PCA Sim Racing. So, hopefully they'll have much to talk about after this one. As I said, this is an important track for a lot of people, as they'll want to add their name to this historic venue. Even if it is just virtual, it's still is something to be proud of as we watch Terrence Tong, who's not looking that good here in the qualifying compared to where his points sit right now. They're within the top 10, but you never know. He could be better in the race than he is in the qualifying as we've now hit that checkered flag and they start to come across the line. Looks like we got a number of them crossing right now, and it looks like, ooh, Jeff Lewis improves to a 23.5. That puts him up into fourth. That was a big jump there for the 927.
Yeah, big jump there. And as you said, Joe, I don't think qualifying is going to be nearly as crucial as it was back in Detroit, but I still think you want to find yourself up into that top 10 probably here, because despite the fact that turn one is a primary overtaking opportunity, it's also a real flashpoint here on the first lap. And with the standing start that we have in due for us here, could be a little bit of a danger zone.
Like Dave Stewart not going to be able to improve on that last one. Greg Arado also not any quicker, unfortunately. Nick Facciolo is only down in 10th. If the 717 can go any quicker, no. He's only going to have to start from P10 and try and make up from there. A lot of drivers really trying to wrap this up with one final flyer. Looks like we got one coming into the pit lane as Florian and Brett Holmes are now coming through along with Austin Bucket, but he's got traffic trying to get out of his way as we now switch over to Holmes. Looks like he is going to carry on all the way to the line, but not able to take a quicker lap, unfortunately. In the meantime, Bucket now down to it at 38th. He's second to last at 24.9. Makes him go a little bit faster, but not any higher up the order.
Yeah, not going to be able to move himself forward. Let's see here, though, if Chad Dick has got anything in the tank. I'm not seeing any fast times being set necessarily, but they are certainly fast sectors here being set, but certainly trying to work their way on it right now. See if Chad's got a little bit left in the tank to be able to move his way forward.
I'm showing him well off of his best time right now. He comes down to the inside, but doesn't mean much. He's done with qualifying, which means we are done with qualifying. So let's go through our starting order. Grotto will be on the pole with Briggs next to him. It's going to be Stephen Kemp in third and Jeff Lewis with that late qualifying run up to fourth. Greg Arado will be P5, followed by Reese to his outside. Joe Sinclair starts seventh. Mark Lacombe will be in P8. Brett Holmes ninth, and Facciolo rounds out your top 10. We'll scroll through the rest of our qualifying results, and DJ, it's going to be an interesting one to watch down in that first corner on the first lap with the history of this place.
Yeah, very much so. This is going to be a big flashpoint, as we said, coming down into turn one. Watch for a lot of drivers to be very cautious on the brakes, and make sure that they get this right.
Looks like just a couple more need to grid up. Standing start for this one, of course. So that's going to just add to a bit of the chaos down into that first turn. And we'll see if anybody winds up facing the wrong way or maybe off into the grass. Hopefully not much damage if we do get any sort of incidents in there. But we have to remember, they did a great job with Detroit 2 weeks ago. So you never know. They've got a good reputation built up to this point. Maybe they've taken that to heart. And we'll see as just about, looks like 4 more drivers will get us underway, including Jeff Lewis, who's certainly waiting quite a bit of time for us to be done with this one. This is definitely one of my favorite additions as of recent to iRacing, as they've been using this track since I believe it was 2014 or 2015, somewhere around there. And since they've updated this circuit, it has really come alive and improved greatly on its former forms. Just still waiting on Jeff Lewis. Looks like Jake Faulkner and Lonray Sarumi. Wonder if they're going to be planning to start from pit lane potentially to try and avoid some of the chaos up there. I think they do actually have to ask for permission to usually do that. So hopefully they don't miss the start without getting a permission from the stewards. Green flag is out in the meantime. Oh, and our leader does not go at all. Now he's getting on the way. Logan Grotto is getting swamped as Briggs is going to be first down into the corner, and he has got no one near him. This is fantastic for the 4-car. It's a battle for second. Kemp sends it in deep past Greg Grotto. Looks like Jeff Lewis trying to come up from fourth to see if he can take any positions. Nothing doing from there as we go 3 wide, a little farther in the pack. Not seeing any craziness. I think we're going to get through, DJ.
I think we are as well. Looks like everybody very even-minded there through that corner. And yeah, you mentioned it right at the top. A terrible getaway there for your pole sitter of Logan Grotto. It looks like he was either in neutral when things started or he just missed the lights coming out.
Already coming to the end of the backstretch. It's very short laps around this track. It doesn't take long for them to tick by. And with 60 minutes, we're going to see a lot of them through here. So a few lunges down into turn 7. But again, it looks like everybody's minding themselves to make sure that they don't end this race prematurely. Briggs still leads. Kemp leads. Gregorato for your top 3 as we head through the final 3 corners and get ready to re-enter the front stretch.
Yeah, and that's where the big draft is going to come into play here. You need to be within about a second of the driver in front of you to take full advantage of that, as it looks like we've already got a car coming down into pit lane here at this point. At least that was what it looked like on my screen. Yeah, that's going to be Chad Dick coming down into the pits.
Ooh, that's interesting. He does have a black flag. Wonder if he jumped the start there. So he's paying the penalty for whatever happened, as Logan Grotto currently sits in the 7th position, coming up into the braking, trying to fend off all comers, and he's able to stay ahead for now. Also, Kevin Haman had a spin right in front of Peter Yurtza coming through the chicane. Thankfully, didn't hit anybody or anyone. He's able to get it going once again. But wow, despite it being a bit frantic out on track, it's still quite clean. And all but one driver was able to make it across the finish line after the first lap without having to visit the pits.
Yeah, certainly is. And looking at that gap up at the front of the field, Briggs starting to pull away here at that point, which is exactly what he needs to do. But farther back down, trying to see the fight here for Logan Grotto, trying to just grasp onto any position that he can. Reese right there in front of him. He's already going to take a look down to the inside, coming through 11.
Yeah, Reese was way offline coming into 10, and that's what hurt him. Gives the inside to Grotto. Our pole sitter gets at least one of the positions back. Look at the checkup that caused behind him, as Holmes is going to cause a side-by-side with Facciolo and I believe Mark Lacombe. And they also seem to have Jake Faulkner in behind him. We're going to ride on board with him down the front stretch, and he's got a huge toe, but not many places to take it. He's going to make it into 3 wide as they cross the yard of bricks. Is anybody going to give way as they come to turn 1? This funnels down quite quickly as it starts out wide, and it looks like it's going to be Lacombe who gives up the ghost.
Yeah, it looks like there that he just didn't want any part of that, but a big slip in front there from Facciolo. That car getting very, very sideways. He's able to regain it and hold back onto it. Excuse me, that was Facciolo. But a very, very sketchy moment there. I'm almost surprised that Faulkner wasn't able to get himself on by at that point.
Back to Brandon Harrison here in 15th. He's chasing a pair of cars. That's Sean Murphy and Mario Gonzalez. I can also report that Terrence Tong was given a black flag. Not sure what incident that was for, but very early in the race for him. Remember, they have pit stops later on, but you can't serve that black flag during the pit stop. In fact, he's only got three laps before he will be disqualified if he doesn't serve that.
Yeah, so he's going to need to jump on that as much as possible and get rid of that penalty point as quickly as he can. Wouldn't be surprised if we see him coming down into pit lane. But, Joe, you can see here when all that squabbling with Faulkner, Facciolo, and Lacombe is really allowed to play out here. It's now a 1.9-second gap between Faulkner and Brett Holmes up in front of him, and a big train starting to form here behind the 33.
Yeah, I got a feeling that this is going to break out once again down into the first corner as long as somebody gets enough slipstream. Faulkner looks relatively safe as he pulls along Facciolo, but Lacombe has a double toe, and if he really wants to be brave compared to last time, late move there from Facciolo. I'm guessing he didn't see Mark try and dive to the inside, was actually focused forward, trying to attack on Faulkner. Regardless, they all stay in position, and man, you called it a train. My goodness, it's a long one.
Yeah, it is indeed. It really is running pretty much all the way back down to 21st. 9th to 21st is just how long that is, as we jump up here to ride on board with Stephen Kemp as he tries to hold off a charging Enrico Gregorato behind him.
Yeah, second place and already 2 seconds behind Thomas Briggs. So hasn't really ran away all that much, but has definitely got himself enough of a safety buffer. Meanwhile, Gregorato trying to cut as much of that inside of turn 10 as he can. Oh, and Lacombe's had a problem. He's off the track in the S's portion, and it looks like he may have hit the wall, unfortunately. The 19 creeping back onto the circuit. Thankfully, everybody sees him, and it's not any drama returning. Oh, nope, I spoke too soon. He just got spun.
I hate to see that there for Mark Lacombe as he continues to fall back down through the field. Right here, though, Logan Grotto trying to hold off an attack from Joe Sinclair. Sinclair looking like he's got the pretty good run. Grotto already taking a defensive line.
So he's going to have to go around the outside here. The green and white car, Sinclair, pops out to the long way around, but he brakes a little bit early. Understands it's not worth trying to sacrifice the time. And in fact, he gets the spot anyways as Logan has a spin now. It's a bit of a miserable race today for the number 9 after starting this thing on pole, and he's not even going to be able to get back on track until well below 20th place.
Yeah, and he's still searching for that opportunity to get himself back out. Finally going to weed his way back in there, Joe. And that's one of the pitfalls of coming down into turn 1. It's one of the few places on the circuit. There's a little bit of elevation change. There's a little bit of a dip right there. And if you just get that wrong, it'll throw you around. As Jake Steinbrink has also, looks like, had a problem coming through turn 4.
Yeah, the sim really hides it well, but it is accurate to it. And you and I can attest, having seen it in person, that there is a fair bit of banking that dumps you down in that turn 1 onto the infield as we check out Lewis here. Also, Jake Steinbrink had a spin, I think, on his own in turn 3 or 4. So it wasn't lap 1 that was the problem. It's every lap after that we've seen all the issues.
Yeah, it is, and that's a little bit surprising here. Only 72 degrees Fahrenheit on the track right now. I would have thought at this point that these tires would have been warmed up in the optimal temperature range, but clearly some drivers really struggling with rear tire grip here only 7 minutes into this race.
Briggs now actually still at 2 seconds. He hasn't gained or lost any, just holding station for the time being. We look back at the battle for second. Greg Arado has gone from attack to defense because this is Jeff Lewis starting to encroach on that rear bumper.
Yeah, he's starting to close in behind courtesy of that draft here. And Lewis, I haven't seen any pokes to the inside or the outside. He's not really trying to pressure Greg Arado here at this point. I think he is just trying to learn a little bit what he can off of the number 7 and figure out his tendencies.
He dropped some time coming off of turn 4, so not as strong through there. Greg Arado keeps himself out of range down into 7 because of it. But man, regains it. Lewis looks pretty good under braking, if I'm honest.
Yeah, he really, really does. Able to gain up a lot there coming into turn 7 off of Holman Way. It looks like Greg Arado's got a little bit more as they start to pull away under acceleration, but still going to be a close bout battle.
Oh, Grotto's lost more spots. He had contact with Peter Yurtsa coming into turn 4. He had starting to smack of desperation. That's a very difficult place to pass, and he tried to get to the inside of Peter, and it spun him around, unfortunately. So we head over to Nick Facciolo just within the top 10. This is very close here coming off the final corner. That's Faulkner in front of him. But it looks like the corner exit really favors the 33 here.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I talked about at the beginning of this broadcast. You've got to absolutely nail turn 13. Turn 14 bringing you back up on to the start-finish line is essentially a flat-out corner. But if you're a little bit off coming through 13, it's going to completely throw you off, and you're going to have no chance to attack.
Look at the 2 different lines that each of them are taking here through 1, 2, and 3. And they start to come back together to the same line here through 4 finally. Onto the back stretch. Can maybe he get a bit of a run as we jump up to Lewis now? Ooh, he's very close to Greg Arado, but still unable to take advantage of it. If he can just stay within range by the time they get to the front stretch, he should be able to try and have an attempt here. But he'll need to be solid through the last 3 corners. Let's see if he's got the pace through 12, 13, and 14.
Yeah, let's see. Indeed, now we're starting to see Lewis take some alternate lines here, looking at areas that he can maybe try to force Enrico into a little bit of a mistake. Enrico not giving up anything here at this point, and it looks like he's going to get probably a good enough takeout there of turn 13 to be able to keep himself ahead.
Yeah, and Lewis just can't quite get the throttle down in time, and you can see our top 4 starting to separate. But in the foreground, we caught a glimpse of a driver that looks like a lapped car that might find himself already going down behind the leader. So that could play a part in this. And we had a spin for Sean Murphy. He got tipped around, unfortunately, by Scott Kessel. So not sure if the steward's going to have to take a look at that one. Unfortunately, we're only 10 minutes into this race, and boy, we've had a lot of action.
Yeah, we certainly have. I'm kind of amazed that only 10 minutes are down here in this race. I would have thought that we would have been about 30 minutes in with everything that we've been hooting and hollering about here at this point. But this is proving to be a fantastic drive here for these all of these PCA club members, as there you can see the overlay of where everybody is out on track.
That's the 20 of Trip Starkey that's up ahead that they're catching up to. So they're going to be approaching towards turn 12 pretty soon. And then it's on to the front stretch. That's where you want to get caught. And for Starkey, goes a little bit deep. There you can see him now on the same shot as Thomas Briggs. But he looks a little far away to me. That's going to be a little much to ask for him to lift on the front stretch. So he's got to hope that he doesn't catch him through 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, and the next best place that he is going to be able to hope to catch up to Starkey here at this point is going to be on Holman Way on the backstretch, and we'll have to see if that is how it will play itself out. It looks like the gap's holding relatively all right here at this point, and unless Tripp makes a big mistake here coming through this first sequence of corners, he should be okay.
Yep, so he's a little too far back, so things are looking good for now, but not so for Gregorato, who still is dealing with Jeff Lewis, although he's dealing with it admirably, hasn't succumbed to the pressure quite yet, and keeping him out of range in the places that matter as we now come onto Holman Way ourselves and head towards the braking of turn 7. Looks relatively close, but this backstretch just isn't long enough.
Yeah, it needs to be about maybe 1/8 of a mile longer, and it would be perfect for overtaking. But as it stands right now, especially with that very, very fast flick that constitutes 5 and 6, you really just can't get a good run there. It's really all about setups.
Well, the stewards have been busy. Oh, and actually may want to go back to Lewis. Oh, I thought he was going to maybe have a go down to 12. He was very, very close that time. But we've had Lee Binkley, Mark Lacombe, Charles Yao, and Logan Grotto all given black flags within the last few minutes. And it seems that we're going to see a lot of action on pit lane before the pit window opens. Randall Ayers, in the meantime, sees a whole line of cars in front of him as well, but isn't able to reach out and try and do anything quite yet.
No, not quite able to get it, but with all of that jostling up in front of him, I think it's only a matter of time with Yerxa, Steinbrink, and Bucket, those 3 cars that are really duking it out there in front of him. I think it's just a matter of time before he's going to be able to close into the back of them.
A little bit of diving on the front stretch there. Who's making some moves down in the first corner. Looks like under braking, that's going to be Steinbrink on Bucket. Oh, and trying to get to the inside. Peter Yerxa almost makes contact with Austin. He just did not anticipate that bright yellow car braking as early as he did. Great heads up by all parties.
Yeah, very, very good heads up, and that is one of the reasons we get a real flashpoint there as they come down into the corner. It can really, really throw you off if you have a little bit of a driver that's taking a little bit of an unconventional line, braking a little bit early. When we jump back here to Nick Facciolo, looks like that gap has extended a little bit. Faulkner starting to pull away to the tune of about 0.7 of a second.
You know, I was just looking through because every once in a while I get curious about who's been moving up. And we mentioned him not long ago. Austin Bucket is up 15 spots, actually. So, boy, has he been climbing, having started 38th and getting close to the top 20 now.
Yeah, it's a great run there for Austin in the number 39 machine. The Alpine Mountain Region driver doing a really, really good job. Things are going to get a little bit harder the farther he gets up in the field, but up 15, nothing to shake a stick at.
Indeed. So back onto the front stretch. Doesn't look like he's going to get one this time. That's Steinbrink who just overtook him last lap around. Maybe he's settling back into some of the positions that he had gained through attrition earlier on. We won't know for a bit as they come into turn 1. Looks like we have things, hopefully, crossing fingers, a little bit more under control. We haven't seen any more spins or incidents as of the last couple laps, at least. So drivers may be trying to realize that they got a long race to go. Boy, big bobble, though, from Lewis as he has to correct the car out of turn 9.
Yeah, and we've talked a couple of points earlier about how these Porsche 911 GT3Rs can be a little bit like a pendulum. If that rear end starts to step out on you, very hard to correct. And Lewis there doing a great job of locking it down before it became a problem. So fantastic driving there out of the 927.
And somebody into pit lane. That's Trip Starkey. And I don't believe he was one of those given. No, he was not given a black flag. So this is possibly a scheduled stop to try and avoid the leaders coming through. He is barely within the pit window, although that's going to be just a little tight. So hopefully that will help him maybe gain some positions, get into clear air by the time he's out on track once again. Battle back here coming into turn one between Brett Holmes and Joe Sinclair for 5th place now. The 212 has a nice little gap of about 0.7 of a second, struggling to get the car to turn into turn 4, though. Seems like Brett Holmes doesn't quite like the handling.
Yeah, and that can be a little bit difficult. That's a tricky corner to take, Joe. You've got to let the car roll all the way out to the left-hand side of the track and be applying braking as you're unloading the steering a little bit. It's a little similar to the end of the fountain section that we were at last time out in Detroit. Obviously, this a little bit easier, but it's a similar concept in the way you've got to do it.
And we got dive down to the inside, but no dice as Mike Sachs was trying to get a spot away from Scott Kessel. And that's Patrick Adamczyk in front of both of them as well. But looks like that's a better exit from turn 10 for Adamczyk. Boy, he was being hounded by Kessel all through those S's. Just too difficult to try and pass through those turns unless you get it started on your way in. Once again, though, under braking, looks like Kessel's pretty good trying to get the car woed up, but he needs to be good accelerating right here, and that's not a good way to do it with 2 wheels in the grass.
No, it's not. That's going to really, really hurt his momentum here, and I think we're going to see a big attack coming from that car behind him.
Well, I can report that Trip Starkey's early pit stop will not net him positions. He's retired. He's out of the race, so not sure if he had some damage that we had missed, but clearly that pit stop was not trying to take an early one. I think maybe he just figured he's not good today, and Kessel's not going to be good for much longer if he keeps going off into the grass on the exits of corners.
Yeah, he's got to be very, very careful about that. The car will absolutely step out on you if you're not careful while doing it. We ride on board the rear end of Kessel here right now as he tries to hold off Mike Sachs. Sachs not necessarily sticking directly in the draft. They're moving around a little bit, just trying to fill Kessel's rear view mirrors as much as possible. I like that strategy there from Mike Sachs.
Also, unfortunately, Mark Lacombe is our first retirement of the day, so he'll be scored 39th with Starkey 38th. Only 2 that are out of this race. Lee Binkley is in pit lane as well. That may be actually a scheduled stop at this point. Ooh, Facciolo managed to get by Faulkner, or was that a successful defense that I saw? It was a successful defense, actually.
Yeah, I was watching it, Joe. I think Facciolo's getting a little bit frustrated here at this point. He tried to make a dive going down into turn 12 to just try to catch Facciolo off guard a little bit, or Faulkner off guard a little bit. Didn't work.
Well, this battle has gotten interesting. Greg Arado, who's still ahead of Lewis, suddenly finds Kemp in front of him, but we've jumped back once again here to Faulkner. Facciolo still behind him, as I mentioned earlier. Brandon Harrison also starting to form a trio out of turn 4, but 2 of those cars definitely unable to get down to the apex through that corner. Now through the chicane onto the back stretch, they spread out.
Yeah, they're going to start to spread themselves out here a little bit, but I'm going to be curious to see what Nick Facciolo does here through this back half of the circuit. This is where he's been really, really strong, and as I mentioned earlier, he was actually strong enough to be able to make an attack down into turn 12. Let's see if he's going to have the same amount of gumption to do it again here.
Facciolo on board as we watch them exit through turn 10 onto the short chute. Faulkner going to cover the inside. Well, no, initially he did. Thought maybe he felt a little bit unsafe, but he comes back to the racing line. Looks like Facciolo isn't close enough to get it down to the inside of him through turn 13 as well, but we got a side-by-side between Jeff Lewis and Stephen Kemp. They've both gone past them when we weren't looking. Was there a mistake from the 37 that we missed?
I think there must have been, as Kemp now finds himself down in 4th place. I wasn't keeping my eye on that. I was watching the battle back with Faulkner and Facciolo, but Kemp in a world of trouble, now down in 4th, and he's got to play catch-up.
Wheel spin out of 13. I found it. The 37 just in the worst possible place, could not get the traction, and that made him slow all the way down the front stretch. So Gregorato and Lewis passed him in a straight line, which is always the most desirable way to try and get a position. In the meantime, he's sticking with it. Who knows? Maybe he can try and recover here and attack right back, although they did run him down from earlier, so I wouldn't bet on anything. We just have to wait and see what unfolds. 10 more minutes and we've reached the halfway point.
Yes, indeed, and that means we're probably about, I would say, 20 to 25 minutes away from that pit stop window truly being open. You can come into the pits here at this point and make it to the end, but normally what we do see from this series is a lot of drivers taking this fuel tank as long as it will go.
Indeed. And going back to Kessel once again here. No, we're looking at Lewis on the 927. This is the closest he's been for some time on Gregorato, but Enrico doesn't cover him, and neither does Lewis try to attack. That surprises me a bit. Would have thought with how much he struggled to try and get close enough that he would try and take any opportunity now.
Yeah, I would have thought the same thing too there, but clearly Jeff Lewis feels like he's got a good enough car underneath him that he doesn't need to be going on a full attack run here, that he can just wait for a better opportunity to come his way.
Yeah, maybe wants to try and play it safe here and keep himself in the hunt for a better result in the championship. He's down 12th right now. This is actually, that means that this position might be the highest he'll have finished so far. If he brings it home from here. Yeah, because he's only been for 2 rounds and definitely hasn't been performing this well in those previous 2. So a podium for the first time in Series 9 would be a big benefit to him, even if he isn't second place, but only third. Well, let's see if that prediction stays true, or if he does eventually try and stick his nose in on Gregorato and be a bit more aggressive. This wasn't as good of a run back onto the front stretch, so it's certainly not going to be coming this time.
No, I don't think it is, and Gregorato doesn't look like he has any indication of either trying to break the draft or even go defensive here. He's just going to be running that straight line down into turn 1, and they're going to come in single file order.
You know, the other thing that's going to change drastically as we check out Reese here fighting with Holmes for that 6th place is Grotto with his mistakes and unlikely to really get much higher than I would think, 10th at most. Thomas Briggs is fighting him in the championship, and I mentioned those gaps can come down fast. I think that we might see Briggs leading the points after tonight.
Yeah, I think if Grotto doesn't, if he isn't able to regain about 20 or so positions here at this point, I think we could see a changing of the guards up at the top of the field. So we'll have to keep our eyes open on that, as I certainly think that's a distinct possibility.
We need a replay of Facciolo side by side with Harrison through the chicane, and they managed to do it without tripping each other up. And it's Harrison that comes out ahead. In fact, Mario Gonzalez got a place for it as well. Here we go. I believe it's going to start even before the first corner here, DJ. So they must have carried on side by side through a number of turns.
Yeah, they were really duking it out here, and credit where credit is due to Mario Gonzalez to be able to get by on this. There you can see going down into the first corner, late onto the brakes, has to check himself up a little bit. There comes a little bit of a move, cross back, little bit of a squiggle there from Facciolo, and then Gonzalez going to continue that around here as they go through turn 4, going to back it off. That's going to allow him to get the better run off of the corner, and then this is the big one. How they didn't make contact through there, I will never know.
And that was a ton of curb there from Harrison as well. He's lucky he didn't get some sort of cut course penalty and that the car didn't spin out. Facciolo decides, well, now's as good a time as any to pit if we're going to have that sort of action on track.
Yeah, and I like that call from Facciolo. He has been involved in the battle pretty much since the drop of the green flag. Might as well come in here at this point, try to go a little bit off cycle and see if that'll gain you a couple of positions.
Not sure what happened with Randall Ayers, but he's copped a black flag of his own, so he's going to have to serve that one. Trying to see where he is actually out on course. Yeah, down 24th right now. Hasn't come in for that black flag yet. Back to Lewis, where we've been teased with this battle. And we have seen a change of position at least once, but it's Gregorato and Lewis both overtaking Kemp, who's right now in the mirrors of this number 927 and still unable to overtake Enrico. Here it's going to be telling. This is definitely among the closer runs that he's had. Gregorato just kind of half-heartedly covering, but not enough that it's going to affect things. Now Jeff is able to get the inside line, coming down into turn 1 as they enter off the banking down into 2. He's finally got it done. Jeff's in P2.
Jeff Lewis able to get that move done. Pretty straightforward pass there. My question now is going to be, is what kind of gap is Jeff Lewis going to be able to build here over Enrico Gregorato? We know that Lewis has got pace, but how much has he been held up behind Gregorato over the course of these last couple of laps?
Harrison just about pulled the same maneuver over again on Jake Faulkner as he tried to attack him into turn 1, but Faulkner slammed the door shut on him this time and is able to stay in 8th place. This is the battle on screen for second, which has now been taken by Lewis. Kemp still running in the 4th position. Here as he rides behind Gregorato and Lewis. Could be maybe trying to save a bit of fuel. Not a track that's known for that here. Oh, Duncan James is around. This is on the backstretch. He's got it turned and running once again. Thankfully, has plenty of space offline to get it rolling.
And I am going to just venture a guess here and say he clobbered a little bit too much of the curb there through 5 and 6, judging where we saw that number 27 off there. Very easy thing to do. We talked about it a little bit earlier with Harrison, but very, very easy mistake to make.
And Leung, in the meantime, I haven't talked about him a whole lot, but looks like quite a bit of action in front of him as some of the drivers going to decide to pit. Mario Gonzalez, and I do believe that is Jake Faulkner as well, that are taking off at just about the halfway mark to try and get their fuel, be back out and on their way. And he passes maybe a few cars just kind of looking. Ben covering off Scott Kessel. Is he going to go deep, or can he keep it tucked in? Nice bit of braking there from Ben, and a successful defense.
Yeah, a successful defense there from Ben, and it looks like here at this point, Kessel's going to try to attack the back as much as possible, even up through turn 4 there, trying to take a little bit of a different line. But I've got one concern to raise here, Joe, with these drivers that are pitting down are a little bit early, a little bit off sequence. If they're not coming down into the pits with another driver, they could find themselves losing a little bit of time courtesy of not having that draft, and that could really come back to bite them.
Kessel took another little poke coming into 7. That one didn't quite pan out either for him. Apparently, it's not just trying to pit with somebody that you need to worry about. We're understanding that some of the stewards are a little concerned about some of the moves they're seeing with drivers. I assume that's mostly down into turn 1. So they've got their eyes open for potential blocking. And I guess that's a notice for the drivers to be kind of on their toes here and try and clean up the act, because we have seen some weaving down the front stretch from some of these camera angles.
Yeah, we certainly have, and it has been very, very close running for a lot of these drivers, so you don't want to be making that move in reaction to another driver. Now, if you make the move, fade a little bit, come down to the inside to defend the line before the driver behind you is committed to making an overtake, that's fine. But moving in reaction to another driver, that's when you're going to run afoul of the stewards.
That one looks pretty clean to me. Kessel still on Leung, and now they've caught up to Brandon Harrison as well. Didn't realize they were that close to the 31 as they fly down the backstretch once again. Looks like as we watch over his rear wing, he is going to be safe coming into turn 7. Highest driver to have pitted right now is Chad Dick, and he's down in 26. So really haven't seen any of the front runners attempt anything at this stage. It's been mostly mid-pack on down that have tried the less than optimal strategies to see what they can get from here. Now that we come into the latter half of the race, though, I'll watch and wait if anybody is going to come in before they get to the end of the fuel. That was very deep there from Harrison, though, coming in at 12 as we now jump back to Ambrosino.
Yeah, and Aaron here going to be trying to attack a little bit on Patrick Adamczyk there directly ahead of him. Neither driver going to come down into pit lane. Looks like Aaron may have caught a little bit of the curbing there, and that'll slow him down a little bit.
Is that going to be enough for an attack? It looks like Yao is pulling out of the way just in front of them, try and let more of the lapping cars through. Nope, they're going to stay in line. And we've had our latest retirement, Randall Ayers, who was penalized before with a black flag. Looks like he's called it a day. Now that we've crossed halfway, we want to remind you that driving technique, car setup, and telemetry analysis are just a few things you need to squeeze every last tenth out of your lap time. Join our very own physicist, Nicky Chan, who you may know from his P4 finish and last season's Pro Class, as he explains all this and more in scientific yet easily digestible YouTube videos at lasttenth.com. Watch today so that you can enjoy squeezing every last tenth off your lap time and beat those personal bests. Last tenth. Better car, better driver. So we watch them come across those yard of bricks. Who will be able to kiss them at the end of the day? Thomas Briggs looks the most likely, but Jeff Lewis, now that he has gotten into second place, it's down to 2.5 seconds here, DJ. Thomas Briggs might need to pick up the pace a little.
Yeah, he might. And remember, we talked a little bit earlier about Lewis maybe being able to break away from Gregorado. Now, he hasn't been able to do that by leaps and bounds. On the last lap, he was only about 0.03 of a second faster, but that gap has grown up to about 0.7 here at this point. So he's certainly able to get his way forward. I think the one thing, though, that could be affecting Briggs at this point is a little bit of that lap traffic, as there we see, looking out the back here of Terrence Tong, as now Lewis is going to be the one encountering some of that lap traffic.
Yep, I mentioned it earlier. It's a bit of a short lap, and with starting with 40 cars, now we're down to 36. This is going to be a little bit frantic. Lewis finally finds an opening, coming around 11 onto the short chute. Oh, but he's going to make contact, and Lewis spins. He comes to a halt here, and he's going to keep it off the racing line. Thankfully, doesn't hit anything else, although I fear that one's going to be on Jeff if the stewards decide to investigate that, and that may end his run for a potential podium here.
Now let's take a look back at the replay here. Terrence Tong in that black and blue machine right up ahead as we watch here. Jeff Lewis goes down to the inside, given plenty of space by Terrence Tong, and it just looked like there that Jeff Lewis washed out a little bit and made contact there on the outside, and I've got to agree with you with your assessment there, Joe.
We won't know, though, until they take a look at it. So until then, innocent until proven guilty, and there's basically nothing that we can say about that, as he's having to try and find his pit stall, and taking a bit to try and get there is Jeff Lewis. He pitted in immediately and is now the only of the front runners that has come into pit lane here with 27 minutes left to go. Back to Scott Kessel here, fighting for 8th spot. Ben Leung just in front of him, and Mike Sachs actually not too far back as well. About a car length between them, although Kessel gives that apex a miss once again at 10-4. It's easy to lose touch with that curb.
Yeah, it very much is, and I think what Kessel was trying to do was take a little bit of a later apex into the corner, trying to carry as much momentum as possible, and he frankly just carried a little bit too much momentum into the corner. And Joe, you called it right. Black flag looks like it's been awarded to Jeff Lewis.
That is just horrible to see. Terrence Tong also seen a black flag for him. Not sure if that was recent here. Yeah, I do not see that out there. So wonder if that was an incident limit for him, because they do get a black flag after only 11. So they have to be pretty safe. Terrence Tong must have just racked up too many of those at this stage. Man, that's a bit gutting to see for Jeff, considering he has really been running well today. Oh, and Ben Leung is now into pit lane as well. I can confirm that Tong's black flag is for incident limits on that one, so that's why he is down in there. And he's got to be careful, because if he's, I'm seeing it, 13 is what he's racked up. He only needs 3 more, so just a car contact will give him another drive-through penalty, because every 5 beyond the 11, they get another penalty to their name. As we check out Jake Steinbrink here in 11th with Adam Chick and Florian hot on his heels.
Yeah, and Steinbrink able to make a good move on Patrick Adamczyk coming down into turn one. Pretty simple move there for him. Daniel Florian now on the attack here in the number 11 machine, trying to close into the back here of Patrick Adamczyk. Adamczyk trying to not lose 2 positions in 1 lap. Florian going to take a little look down into turn 7. Half-hearted, though. That was not a full commit.
Yeah, Daniel up 10 spots from where he began here today. About 10 more minutes, and then he's probably going to be at the end of that pit window, depending on if he's been trying to save or not. But he's losing a little touch with Adamczyk now, so don't think he's going to be able to make an attack unless he has a really phenomenal run through 12, 13, and 14 here at the end of this lap. Let's see as he carries it through. No, he's actually going to pit in this time, so he's going to get out of this train, see if he can jump them, as we now look back at Balistieri, who's done even better going past Florian there. He's now up to 16 positions above where he began.
Well, and he is doing an absolutely fantastic job, but we mentioned this driver a little bit earlier, Joe. Austin Bucket, currently your biggest mover of the race, with Daniel Florian now hopping down into pit lane. Make Austin Bucket up 21 on the day.
Just phenomenal stuff as we now hop on board with him looking forward. That is Volker Krebs in front of him. That is for position. Can he make it? Maybe 22. Krebs is up 19, though. So Krebs has kind of been doing the same thing. It's just he's been overshadowed by Austin, just picking him up and putting him down. The Haribo machine gets a full view of those behind him, which includes Sean Murphy, but Murphy is a lap down.
Yeah, Murphy a lap down here at this point. He's just going to be trying to hold on to the coattails a little bit as they run around. And Murphy here looks like he had an incident a little bit earlier that he came down into the pits for. I think that may have been a black flag or a penalty there for Sean Murphy as he came down into lap 7. So he still owes us a pit stop on the day.
Chad Dick is still our highest driver to have pitted at this point. Lewis, I think, actually may have had a black flag for incident limits himself initially, and that's why we saw him come down pit lane possibly there, because that was before he was given the black flag by the stewards. And let's see, has he been in a second time? Because he's had 3 laps now. And okay, he has served it. So I think he just took a couple laps to be out there and then served that second black flag. We're watching Gary Reese, who's just in front of Jeff Lewis, but by a lap, and is fighting with Brett Holmes for a top 5.
Yeah, Holmes here in that multicolored machine directly in front of Gary Reese. Reese trying to be able to close in the best that he can. The gap about 0.5 of a second here at this point. Let's see if anybody decides to pull off down into pit lane, as there is a little bit of a train starting to form here for these drivers.
Yeah, watching carefully. Oh, Joe Sinclair, there you go. Coming in from 4th place. That's among the higher-ups that is now pitting in. Jeff Lewis obviously won't be a concern since his wasn't apparently an official pit stop, and he still needs to come in for service. Where will Sinclair come out? Brett Holmes will follow him in. Balistieri's still out on track, sitting in 13th position, thinking about trying to pass on Adamczyk. Does scare Patrick off of the racing line, but is unable to overtake.
Yeah, not able to get that done there at that point, but it does now look like that he is going to come on into pit lane, joining Sinclair and Brett Holmes. Balistieri going to be the 3rd driver on this lap to come into the pits and get his service.
Now the dominoes are falling, so a few relatively quick drivers are going to pit and see where that takes them. What about Thomas Briggs as he exits out of 10 and back onto the short chutes? He's got Gregorado behind him by 4.4 seconds. Lewis was really the one that he needed to be concerned about, and obviously Lewis is now out of contention. It's looking a lot safer, so Thomas is going to take the safe route and go long here himself, not pitting in this time, watching anybody behind him to see if they will enter in, and not seeing any names quite yet. Yeah, it looks like most of them down to 4th, staying out up to now. So Thomas Briggs carries on with the lead with now a 1/3 of the race left to go, and a decently comfortable margin, if not completely safe. Can't exactly have any spins or big offs at this point, because that will give out a spot. Looks like Mike Sachs and now Scott Kessel will join into pit lane as we ride with Kessel through this very narrow entry.
Yeah, it's a very difficult entry in there. Kessel not anticipating Sachs breaking down to the pit speed limiter, and there was contact between the two.
Just a tiny little one. I don't think he'll have even bent up the nose of the car for that. So he gets away lucky, most likely. But that had to have scared the bejesus out of him on that one, as I'm not sure he was anticipating that sort of moment riding behind. Still waiting for both of them to reach their pit stall. Steinbrink and Yerxa are both in as well. And I think this is the leaders coming around. No, this is Faulkner, actually, who's already pitted. He sits in 20th with Gonzalez, who's also pitted, and Ben Leung, who's also been in.
All right, so yeah, this is a little bit of a pack here for the drivers fighting for those who have been in and out of pit lane. Steinbrink also coming into the pits here at this point. It looks like Peter Yerxa and Charles Yao, so plenty of drivers operating that and coming on in. As here we've got Briggs and Gregorato, your top two coming into the pits.
Interesting, but Kemp does not pit in. 19 minutes left. Are we already closing in on the end of the pit window here? Because we're down to about 10 cars that still need to stop. So this is getting to be a bit of a smaller group. Also, Gary Reese and Jeff Lewis. Well, Jeff Lewis actually just overtook Reese, but Reese was a lap down from him. That was interesting. Looks like Jeff has not given up on this quite yet. And he's got also Balistieri in behind him as we check a little forward up the road. Back to the car of Stephen Kemp, our new leader. Reese is up to second place because of those pitting in front of him, but he'll have to hand that back. Austin Bucket's pitting in, and Logan Grotto finally pits in as well. And it looks like Volker Krebs also joining them. We are down to potentially only 2 cars needing to join them.
Yeah, Joe, I think this is coming into the end of the pit stop cycle here at this point. As we watch Kemp, I would be very, very surprised if he is able to stay out for one more lap. And indeed, that's going to be the number 37 coming down into pit lane here at this point.
Where is Gary Reese now? He's also in. That's it. That's everybody having pitted. Logan Grotto is in. Jeff Lewis actually hasn't pitted, I'm seeing. I'll have to double check and see if that was an extra black flag that he had from too many incidents, or if he actually stopped in, because he's carrying on the longest of anybody at this point. But it's not really, I think, going to do him too much. Boy, is it frantic around him in the meantime. And also, this is Briggs getting ready to re-inherit that lead from guys like Kemp and Reese, as he wasn't under threat before the pit stops, and it was... No, it was an average stop. Briggs had a long stop. It was 18 seconds. That's interesting.
Oh, very, very interesting there from Briggs. And now it looks like he's going to come out, and there Briggs is going to be able to clear on by to the tune of about 3 seconds here over Gregorato. That looks like what the gap is going to be here at this point. Kemp not able to close in behind. He'll be about 6 seconds behind these two.
Interesting, because I'm looking at the cone to cone and I'm looking at the pit stop, and Gregorato was quicker on both margins by about 3 seconds. The only thing I can think is that maybe the 7 car was slow on his in or out lap potentially, because he was about 4 seconds behind. Theoretically, he should be right up on top of him, but it's still about 3 seconds between the pair of them.
Yeah, and I'm not seeing any data there necessarily on that in or out lap. It does look like in the last lap, on lap 30, that about 2 seconds were gained by Gregorato, but gained by Briggs. So I think that was a problem for Gregorato on that out lap.
I do see. Oh, Gregorato was 2 minutes flat. No, that was his pit stop lap. Okay, interesting. Well, we'll have to see what exactly caused this, because that one's a bit of a mystery right now. It should have really closed up the race, but it did not in the end. Meanwhile, down into the braking of turn 7, Faulkner still carries on with Ben Leung and Mario Gonzalez to decide who is going to get 10th place.
Yeah, and this is going to be important not only in championship points, but in bragging rights, Joe. To be able to say you've racked up a top 10 is something you definitely want to be able to do here as drivers continue to work their way around right now, trying to see if anybody can get anything here down into turn 12. It looks like they're going to stay single file for now. I'd be most worried here about Gonzalez maybe getting a good run there out of 13. He's only about 0.4 of a second behind. That could be close enough.
I have bad news for fans of Gary Reese. He sits in 8th, just a little bit above this. He was running 4th after those pit stops, spun out of turn 10, and dropped a lot of positions in the process. There he is right now, the 22. Last lap, actually not counted. Did he hit the incident limit? Oh, no, he did. Gary's going to lose even more. He's in pit lane.
Oh, absolute heartbreak there for Gary. My goodness gracious, he's going to have to come on in here and serve that penalty.
Well, it's a tight margin there on those incident limits, but the drivers all are in the same boat, and they've all got to pay attention to them. They keep everybody in line here in the PCA. Looks like that, unfortunately, is not going to go well for him. So I am seeing, I'm getting word that he only has 3 incidents, but I do see a black flag next to his name. I guess we'll get the answer in probably about 3 laps time on if I've got a glitch on my time in scoring or not. But right now, Gary is at least down into the 8th position. Meanwhile, just behind him, Faulkner versus Leung versus Gonzalez. Is this going to get a little bit more exciting on the front stretch? No, they all spread apart. They all had a poor run coming through 13 and 14.
And they're all going to stretch apart there a little bit. Again, it looks like Mario Gonzalez is able to close in a little bit more. He's going to have that gap under 0.3 of a second as they jump onto the binders down into turn 1. But nobody really able to attack there quite yet. Leung does look a little bit better on the brakes. He was able to close up a little bit on Faulkner, so keep an eye on that.
Also, watch out for Facciolo. He's currently in 6th position, but he also has a lot of room around everybody. Around himself with no one near. That's Harrison kind of closing in from behind. But Facciolo does not want to push the limit. He's at 10 incidents. If he has a single off track from here, he's going to have to come in and serve a penalty for too many incidents. So he's really got to kind of ease back a little bit, and that might give Harrison a great chance to overtake him easily. Back to Ben. This is where a lot of the fun has been lately, and the 290. Well, he was closing on Faulkner, but now it looks like Gonzalez behind him, that orange and black 777, is starting to become a bigger threat.
Yeah, it is. Up to about 0.4 of a second, though, under braking. Leung again good on the binders there going into turn 12. Let's see if he's able to get a good run here out of 13. That gap's going to be coming on in, and Gary Reese is coming in pit lane to serve that penalty. We're not entirely sure what that was for, but he is in pit lane serving a penalty.
I wonder if he sped in pit lane maybe on the way out.
That could be it.
Or just had an unsafe pit exit. We'll have to go back and check to see if we can find that out, but it's going to cost him regardless. Mike Sachs gets promoted up into 8th. Faulkner's promoted to 9th now, leading this trio of cars. So them fighting for position has just been amped up just slightly, but not a whole lot. 9th versus 10th. Probably doesn't mean as much for these drivers. Oh, that was a bad run coming out of the chicane for Ben. And Mario Gonzalez knows it. He stays on the racing line while Ben goes slightly defensive just to cover him off. It's going to compromise his entry, but not enough that this is going to allow Mario to try and attack. We're going to ride on board briefly there to watch them enter through that sharpened backstretch corner, through the S's, and then back out onto the oval once again. 11 minutes to go, DJ. It's coming down to the dying stages. If drivers want to be able to get some better points, they're going to have to really try. We had a problem with Ken Eskridge and Scott Kessel coming through turn 4, I think. I think there was some car contact, actually. Yes, there was.
Yeah, we saw Eskridge off to the side there, so a little bit of contact farther back in the field as we jump back here to check out the podium replay. This is Kessel in that Gulf liveried machine. That is Eskridge right there in front in the purple. Oh, looks like there that Scott Kessel just tried to get a little greedy, go around the outside, and contact was made.
Yeah, defending the inside maybe braked a little earlier than Kessel was anticipating an Eskridge, and he came together, and they wound up turning. Not sure if the stewards are going to save that until post-racing or what, or if they'll even have a decision on it. But I'm sure they're going to at least take a little bit of a glance at it at some point, especially when there is contact made between two cars. Okay, watching now, coming down into turn 7. Faulkner doing well to keep Leung from trying to get by him. But Gonzalez now has Ambrosino, making it a quartet instead.
Yes, he does. Aaron Ambrosino, welcome to the party. Let's see if we can add a 4th car into this mix and see what that will play out. Ambrosino going to get a good line there coming down into turn 12. He's going to be able to close up. I wouldn't be surprised here if we try to see him maybe back off the corner here a little bit. That's exactly what he does. Gets onto the loud pedal. Watch for Ambrosino on a good run. That was a good launch there out of 13.
I don't think we reported on it, but Scott Kessel went over the incident limit with that contact himself, and he's had to do a drive-through. So if he gets another penalty from the stewards for the contact, it'll be a double whammy for him. And coming up behind him pretty quickly, this battle between 4 cars trying to decide in 9th place is getting ever more tense. Will it start to explode out on the track in these last 9 minutes?
Well, let's hope it doesn't. We've seen some relatively clean racing here today, a good testament to the PCA. I would hate to see a little bit of elbows out here this far along into the race. Ben Leung looking like he lost a little bit of time there coming through the chicane of 5 and 6. Coming back to the racing line is Jake Faulkner, though, and now they're going to get on the binders for 7.
Yeah, Ben maybe kept his hopes up there, but he wasn't close enough, so didn't merit the position in the end. Gonzalez just behind. Oh, that was a very different line between the pair of them, but it was a bad exit from Ben. Mario knows it. He's going to try to get to the inside. He lifts, though, as he was afraid that gap was going to close.
Well, that would have been a exact carbon copy of what we saw with Jeff Lewis if he had not backed out of it. But now look at this. Here comes Ambrosino. Ambrosino's going to be in good position to maybe get a charge here. Same with Leung on Faulkner.
Teammate to Mario, how hard does he want to fight them? Because they've got an 11th and 12th. That's decent-ish results there. Don't want to throw it away by fighting your teammate too hard. Is this another go? That was a defensive move from Faulkner, just gradually drifting back off to the left-hand side. And no, nobody's going to be able to make the move amongst the 4 down into turn 1 this time through.
Yeah, it looked like Aaron Ambrosino there was a little bit cautious on the brakes. He was early on the brakes coming into the corner, just being very, very heads up and not wanting to overshoot that corner. Whoo, that was almost contact there, though, between Gonzalez and Leung, and that's going to cause him to fall back a little bit.
Oh, Austin Bucket, who had gained so many positions, also gets a black flag for too many incidents and is driving through. Also, I can confirm Kessel has been given a black flag for the contact he made with Eskridge earlier. Through the S's, 4 cars still inches apart from one another here on track. Once again, seeing such different lines between Ben and Mario, and it makes Ben slow off at turn 10. This time, though, less dramatically so, and Mario can't manage to get side by side. That's a big lunge from Ben down into turn 12. It doesn't get him the spot, but Faulkner's going to be watching those mirrors closer now.
And Joe, this just raised the stakes on everything here. Mike Sachs has had an internet issue. He has disconnected from the server, so this is now the battle for 8th place.
They continue to pick them off as others fall victim to various issues here very late in this race. That's going to be gutting for so many drivers who are looking at a good race so far. And now only 6 minutes left. There's another look from Ben. I think he's had enough of this just riding behind. Now we're starting to see him try and poke and prod at every chance, but it compromised his exit. And Gonzalez is now going to look around the outside of turn 4. No, unfortunately for him, he's going to lose out. Ambrosino says, thank you very much. I get that spot now.
Well, and now I'm going to be interested to see if Aaron's going to be able to hold on to the place here and now be able to mount a little bit of a stronger attack on Ben Leong. We're going to have to see how this plays out. We shouldn't have too many laps to go here when they cross over the line.
Ben still manages to collect himself and get to the bumper of Faulkner. Will he be able to try and get another move here before this is said and done? We glance backwards once again. Jeff Lewis with Florian. Has Lewis actually stopped? Maybe he did, because he's still going. I'm still seeing it. He hasn't been in since he served his black flag.
I'm seeing a 17.2 second pit stop there for Jeff Lewis back on lap 23, Joe. So I think he did come in and get service at some point.
Interesting. Ooh, we got to focus here once again on Faulkner, Leong, and Ambrosino. You asked whether Aaron could catch up and make a threat to Ben. It looks like that's a big yes, but he doesn't go for the dive. There's a defense, though, an early turn in from Jake Faulkner. Holds him up on the exit. Ben can't keep the momentum up. It brings both Gonzalez and Ambrosino close to him coming through 3 and 4, but no dice for now.
No dice for now. Let's see what happens as they work their way through 5 and 6. Here they come. It does look like Ambrosino's going to put a little bit of pressure to the back here of Ben Leong. Leong is forced to go a little bit defensive, just slowly drifting back onto the racing line. No moves here into 7, but a narrow entry there for Ben Leong. That's going to get him out into the grass.
Oh, 2 wheels off. He manages to catch it in time. Costs him at least a gap up to Faulkner, but it looks like Ambrosino isn't able to try and make the pass, at least for now. Boy, it is getting to be quite a margin between these guys down in 8th and Briggs. They're about half a lap behind. It has been incredible pace from our leaders compared to the rest of the pack.
Yeah, they are absolutely pulling away from everybody here. And Briggs, Gregorato, and Kemp, they all have healthy margins up with themselves right now, so they're not going to have to worry about any attacks from in front or behind.
Faulkner gets a good exit coming out of 14. Leong looks like he's also out of range from Ambrosino. Yeah, all 4 have spread apart coming down that front stretch. So, yeah, nothing doing down into turn 1. However, is this a 5th car joining, or is that not for position?
No, that's Jake Steinbrink. He's now into the mix.
Uh-oh. Oh, boy. This has been getting fascinating, but quite the train, because Faulkner has been basically rebuffing anybody who's been on the attack and hasn't succumbed to it quite yet. This looks like a good one for Ambrosino. Look at them staying off to that left-hand side as long as they dare, and then back down to the racing line. And there's Steinbrink with a move down to the inside, almost trying to catch Gonzalez sleeping, but it doesn't work in the end.
No, Gonzalez able to rebuff that by pretty much just running the traditional racing line there, and there isn't one of the problems you see when you go down into 7. Hard to get that pass done. Here looks like a pretty good run, though, for Aaron Ambrosino. Could we see a pass down into 12?
Gonna cover it off, just try and keep him from making a move, but the over-under could try and give him the position. Ambrosino cutting back once again onto the front stretch. This is exactly where he wants that long run, and somebody is off track there. Not sure who that was. Looks like Sarumi possibly there, off into the grass. Down the front stretch once again, down to the inside, trying to cover off. This might be 2 to go for these drivers as they enter into the first turn. And both a defense from Leong and Faulkner. Oh, is going to wind up giving Leong a chance to go side by side, but he's off the racing line, loses grip, and now it looks like Ambrosino goes the long way around to 3, maybe 4. He cuts back once again. Will he dare go side by side through the chicane? Not quite.
Not quite, but rest assured, Aaron Ambrosino is starting to show his hand here a little bit. He wants that position. He wants to push ahead. He wants to get up into 9th place as they now dive down into 7.
Oh, it's getting aggressive now. Some hard moves being made down into turn 7. By the way, that was 3 to go for this group. It is going to be a bit because Briggs crossed the line with 2 to go just recently. So they've got quite a chance to still settle this out in this race. They come on to the short chute. Whoa, there's a big dive from Leung. Too much of a dive. He takes to the escape road of the motorcycle track, and that's going to lose him all the positions behind him.
Heartbreak there for Ben Leung. He's going to be able to find himself back out in 13th place, but this battle that we've been keeping our eye on up here for 8th, it is anywhere near done.
Ambrosino got Gonzalez. Ambrosino got past Leung. Now can he overtake Faulkner? Nobody's been able to get him yet in this group. Faulkner covers down to the inside. He breaks deep. He should be able to make the corner. The question is if he has the grip. They almost bang doors, but they get through, and he does it.
Absolutely incredible stuff there for Ambrosino, able to get the move done with 2 laps to go, but Faulkner tries to fight back through 4.
Oh, just barely cuts him off. Look at the arrow wash as he drifts to the outside. That's actually going to compromise him down through the chicane as well. Well, this open doors behind him. Jeff Lewis, as we watch him now, trying to see if he can go on the attack. This is farther down. What position is for? This is for 11th, actually. Oh, and as he just gives enough space into there, it looks like he's going to be able to make it through. What a final few laps this has been in this race. Briggs, by the way, has taken the white flag.
This has just been absolutely incredible battling here as Briggs has taken the white flag already on the backstretch right now. He's coming up against the 950 there. That's going 930 rather. That's going to be Chad Dick, a lapped car.
I said Lewis might be fighting for a top 10. That's exactly what he's doing here at the end, having caught up to that group. So we take a look here at Thomas Briggs. He started this one from second position, inherited that lead a little bit when Grotto couldn't seem to hang here today. With a 6.5 second lead, he basically controlled this race with a handy lead for much of it, not really under attack from anybody, although he had to keep things in check for the remainder of the run here at Indianapolis. It is going to be the first of our 4 races kissing the bricks. Thomas Briggs with the win at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Took the lead at the front of the race after Grotto had a problem, and he never looked back, Joe. A commanding lead for Briggs, and based off of my very rudimentary calculations, that's him into the lead of the championship.
Jeff Lewis is not done. He wants that 10th place, and he's going to have to take it from Faulkner. He does it the hard way, but it's not done. Faulkner fights back through 8 and through 9, back into 10. Finally, Lewis into that 10th position. How about Ambrosino, though? Up to 8th place and ran away from everybody. This battle carries on. Gonzalez just behind. That's Faulkner in there now as he managed to go by Jake as well. Gonzalez managed to go by Jake Faulkner, and he fends him off down through turn 12, cutting back through 13. I don't think, it's not going to swap around here as nobody gets a good enough run onto the front stretch. Nice recovery from Lewis, but I'm sure he would have liked more than just 10th out there today.
I'm sure he would have as well, but still a remarkable drive for him as Patrick Adamczyk going to be seeing if he can get a little bit of a run here on Daniel Florian. Doesn't look like he's going to be able to. That'll be Florian 16th and Adamczyk in 17th.
We're going to see about half the cars finish on the lead lap as Chad Dick is the last among them. But I do believe that will take us to a quick break here. So we'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews after this. A little earlier if that's going to be the case. He's actually got a nose ahead as they come down into the braking zone. He's going to do it the hard way. Welcome back to Indy Motor Speedway, and it was Thomas Briggs who got the first win of the 4 races we'll see with the various classes, and Enrico Gregorato couldn't quite catch up after he inherited second off of a couple drivers who spun and had problems earlier today. Still a nice run from 5th to 2nd, and then Stephen Kemp winding up exactly where he started in 3rd. Joe Sinclair was P4 as Brett Holmes finished 5th today. Facciolo, a gain of 4 spots up to 6th, was very much overshadowed by Brandon Harrison, 21st to 7th, 14 positions. Ambrosino wound up 8th today, overtaking a lot of cars in line at the end of that race and doing a spectacular job at it. Steinbrink was 9th, and Lewis somehow came back to 10th, although he could have had a 2nd place today. We'll cycle through the rest of the field here from our finishing order, but Thomas Briggs was your winner here today in that number 4 machine, and just kept it clean, kept it tidy, and brought it home after he saw Logan Grotto not get off the line out there. So I'm sure he is quite happy about that, because Thomas, it was basically clear sailing from the word go today, but did it feel like that?
Yeah, I mean, I've never had a race that quite has gone that quickly. It was just kind of lonely, honestly. You know, going into the race, I had the mindset I was just gonna, full attack, take no prisoners with Grotto, but I didn't have to do that. So
you did have a little bit of pressure from behind for probably about the first half of it, keeping you within 2 to 4 seconds. Did that at least feel like it was keeping you on your toes? Were you focused forward, or were you just managing that?
No.
I think we may have lost Thomas here. Tom?
Sorry. Yeah. No.
So sounds like, it was keeping you at least honest out there. But I opened up today's broadcast talking about how winning at Indianapolis can be special. Does it feel like that to you? Is this a track that means something, that you're proud you've been able to add that to your W's?
It doesn't matter. I don't care where I win. That's just as long as I win. I mean, it's so special. I mean, I knew it was coming, but to do it now, it's great. I can't describe how I'm feeling.
Great stuff. Well, Thomas, congratulations on the victory, and hopefully we'll get to talk to you next time out at Road America.
Thank you.
Thomas Briggs, your winner in the number 4 machine. DJ, in the meantime, has caught up with Gregorato, who was about 6 seconds behind.
Well, Enrico, let's start at the start. You had a little bit of working your way through the field, had to fight a little bit there to get yourself into second, but once you got there, it looked like it was pretty smooth sailing.
Well, I had a bit of a battle with Jeff Lewis, who unfortunately got taken out at one point. But yeah, the start was a bit strange. I think Logan didn't get a good start, so it was a bit sketchy for a bit. But we managed to get through, at least the front guys. I'm not quite sure what happened to Logan. The race was fairly quiet. A couple of incidents in front, and managed to avoid them. But pretty pleased with my performance today.
Well, talk to me about that, because I noticed a couple of things sort of taken off in front of you, and obviously that incident with Jeff being one of them. When you're driving on a circuit like this, does that throw your rhythm off, or are you able to block that out pretty easily?
It usually takes me a lap or two. The shock is quite, because you're ready to react, so it kind of throws your concentration, and it usually takes me at least a lap to get back into the rhythm. So. Lost a touch with Thomas a bit there, but it's good that I wasn't involved. I guess that's I can't really ask for more than that.
Indeed. Well, next time out, we head to another great American racing circuit in the form of Road America. A little bit longer, a little bit faster. How do you like your chances there?
It's a tough track for me. I think everyone's pretty fast there because it's quite a popular track. So I'm expecting the competition to be very tough, as always. But we always have a great turnout. It's a lot of fun.
Well, I know I'm looking forward to it most certainly. But as for today, who makes this possible for you?
Just thank my family as usual. My spotter, James Fransnick, who saved my skin a couple of times today. Everyone at the PCA who does great work putting all of this together. And of course, our sponsors, Pirelli and Six Sigma. And of course, you guys for the great broadcast. Thank you.
More than happy to bring it to you. That was your second place finisher, Enrico Gregorato. And Joe, I believe you've been able to catch up with our third place finisher, Stephen Kemp.
Indeed, and Steven started directly behind Logan, and while Logan's run unfortunately got off to a late start, you had to deal with that. Have you ever had a situation like that before in a standing start here in iRacing where you had to dive around a stopped car?
No, I don't think I have. And I knew Enrico gets a really good start, so I knew he was coming hard. Yeah, that was probably my first time. I don't know what happened with Logan, but I just had to dive to the right. Otherwise, because I got a pretty good launch as well. Little surprised. Yeah, I don't know what happened with him.
Eventually, Enrico and Jeff Lewis both got by you. Jeff obviously wound up having to give that position back to you because of his penalty. But do you regret the mistake that you made coming onto the front stretch and allowing Enrico through? Do you think you could have defended for the rest of the way if you hadn't had that slip up?
Yeah, Enrico and I are pretty close on pace. So yeah, I touched the grass on that exit onto the straight, and he also gained a lot of time on me in the pit stop. I'm not sure why, but normally Enrico and I are pretty close, so I probably could have been close to him at the end. But yeah, that was a mistake that I let him by for sure.
Obviously, you have the drop weeks to help you out, so that that bad race at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park kind of gets erased. Yeah. But you return after a bit of ways away from the front end of the field. Does this feel like redemption?
Yeah, I had a bad race. The last couple races, I kind of lost my focus in the race, so I really worked on that. In the last couple of weeks, working on retaining my focus because I had good pace, but I didn't have good finishes. So yeah, it's nice to be back on the podium again.
I can only imagine. Congratulations again, and hopefully we'll see you when we head over to Wisconsin.
All right. I'd like to thank my coach, Michael Janney, not only for showing me the track, but also helping me with that concentration problem. Also, Chris Pies and Ross Bentley gave me some tips on it. And then also my Matrix teammates for keeping me motivated. Looking forward to next race.
We are as well. As that was Stephen Kemp in the 37 car taking third place today. That's going to wrap us up. So we'll see you tomorrow for the pro class. That'll be at 9:25 p.m. Eastern on Thursday, November 17th, live here on Podium Esports. But we'd like to thank the PCA Sim Racing title sponsors for Series 9, which includes Pirelli and, of course, Six Sigma Sim Racing. As well, a huge thank you to LastTenth.com. Better car, better driver. A big thank you to the steering committee at PCA Sim Racing, and a huge thanks to our team tonight, DJ, Ryan, Cameron, and Dougie. Also, none of this is possible without those behind the scenes at Podium Esports, Ryan Bauer, Gary Sexton, and John Theodore. Thank you so much for watching tonight's broadcast of PCA Sim Racing. I'm Joe Peak, and I'll see you on the track.